Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Imperium Powerhouse podcast. Our guest today is Paul Stapleton. Paul is a very successful entrepreneur in the property sourcing businesses, event businesses, and many other businesses. So please dive in with us today to go through Paul's journey since he started up till today so we can all learn from his experience. Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. How was the journey here?
Yeah, simple, half an hour. So it's good.
Very good, very good. Tell us more about yourself. Where are you from? From the UK? Where were you based? About your childhood?
Yeah, so I live in London. So I'm based in the south. Family wise, my mum is from Cyprus. My grandparents are from Egypt. So a Lebanese upbringing, which is quite nice. Life revolves around food. So that's
So, do you know
great.
how to speak Arabic?
I think my granddad only taught me the bad words, so it's probably not something to
I'm from
repeat on
Egypt.
here. Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, so my granddad died when I was young, so I didn't have a lot of time around my mum's parents. So yeah, so I had a bit of that upbringing.
And where were you based in London?
So I'm based in Bromley, which is southeast. So
Beautiful area.
yeah, it's like the last borough before you come out of Greater London
I mean, there
into
is
Kent.
still a lot of confusion whether Bromley is Kent or London.
Yeah, I mean, like my address says Kent, but ULEZ
It says London, and we still have red
and
buses.
Sadiq Khan says London. So does my council tax. So yeah.
Okay. And regarding your upbringing, what was your plans when you were a kid at school and going to high school? And did you go to university or not? What were your plan? What did you want to do when you were a kid growing old?
So I grew up with my dad working really, really hard. Sometimes two jobs. My dad was a chef, and he was an executive chef up in London, and he would work for two different companies. So I would see my dad's work ethic, and I would just think that was quite normal for parents to work really hard. Um, and I always knew that I wanted to be successful. I didn't actually know at that point what I wanted to do. I think one of my very first career options were to go down the graphic design route. I was really interested in art and graphics. Um, School wise, I enjoyed school. I wouldn't say I enjoyed the curriculum, but I enjoyed being at school and the
With
social
friends,
element.
yeah.
Yeah. Did I do well during GCSEs? I passed the majority, a low pass, but I passed. I did what most people do, what your mum and dad want you to do, and I went to college. Spent a year there, absolutely hated it. I kind of felt because I had an interest in business and self education that by the time I got to college and started learning about graphic design, I knew a lot more than I was being taught already. So I just didn't gel with my tutor. So I left and I set up my first business at 18, which was a graphic design company. And I did that for 2 years and realized the money that I want in life is not in this industry. So I went and worked with my dad. My dad had a restaurant and I was working there on the weekends. So I worked there from the age of 14 or 15, washing dishes and learning every aspect of the business. So understanding how to cook, understanding the front of house and waiting and stuff like that. And I learned some really, really good, valuable life skills there, like time management and problem solving and
Dealing with people, I think,
dealing with people.
is
I
the
mean,
most
like
important.
a 15-year-old front of house talking to people double, if not treble, his age, and actually being able to hold a conversation with them,
Yeah.
I think was a massive achievement. And not being that teenager who went out Friday and Saturday nights because that was the busiest time in the restaurant probably grounded me a lot more as well.
Give you more discipline.
It did. It did. And I would see successful people come into the restaurant and I would always conversate with them, find out what is it that you do. And there was like a common theme that successful people were good salesmen. And I kind of thought, you know what? I feel like I'm pretty good at sales as well. I'm selling every day. I'm always, whether it's getting people to take a bottle of wine rather than a glass or giving them an upgrade on their, like how big their meal was or side orders, whatever it
Make
was.
them order more a dessert, not
That's
just
it.
the main.
And
Yeah.
drinks and everything. Yeah. So I thought, you know what? Sales is definitely something that I
And
wouldn't
what
mind
made
doing.
you? Why didn't you continue working in the hospitality industry?
I think I saw the effect it was having on my dad. It's a tough industry to
Stressful.
be in. It's really tough. It's long hours, very small reward, and the target audience for our restaurant were families. And during the time that my dad had the restaurant, we had a recession, and we were heavily impacted by our target audience being impacted by the
By the
by the
recession.
cost of living. Yeah. On top of that, lots of things came in. So the smoking ban came in, which for some reason put people off
Off.
wanting to
Yeah.
go and eat. They didn't see why they should stand outside and have a cigarette. Parking restrictions came into play, so we lost all of the lunchtime trade. Um, and I could see my dad getting really stressed out, drinking. At one point, we nearly lost the house. So I think I kind of fell out of
It is not as
love.
good as people think it is.
Yeah. I think
it's not
also
right.
I fell out of love with it. I saw the impact it had on my dad, and I thought the worst thing I can do is
Continue this.
continue it. So I went into sales.
Okay. All right. Tell us more about your journey in entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
How-
so I went into sales. I really took on board personal development, went to a lot of events where there were people from Dragon's Den and people from America, big kind of personal development coaches coming over, and really went all in on self-education, understanding sales. And I did sales for about 3 or 4 years, got really good at it.
As independent or part of a company?
So I was a consultant for a company, and I basically managed a team of 40 staff there. So every morning I'd go in, I'd train them up, I'd get them on the phones. It was a cold call center, so it's really high pressure and high targets, and very difficult to be consistent in that industry as well. And the turnover of staff, it was like a revolving door. So you're forever training new people up. And when you get them to a level,
They
somebody
leave.
else will come and poach them. So yeah, it was a tough industry, but
But the sales industry teaches a lot.
it does.
Teaches a lot, especially
ev-
working under that much pressure.
Yeah, I mean, like everything is a sale, right? Everything, whatever you do, either you sell something to someone
Or
or
you buy
someone
something.
sells you a reason why they're not going to buy it. So I looked at what I was doing on a daily basis and realized I really enjoy the training element of training people up. But what I didn't enjoy was the managing of people. That was the part of the job that I was in that I really didn't enjoy. So I decided to leave and set up a company called Sales Training Made Simple, where I was an independent sales trainer for corporate companies. So brokers, estate agents.
That's a very big business in the US.
It is, yeah.
In the
It's
US,
huge.
you can
And
make.
nobody was really doing it here. Everyone had internal training, and typically that training I found was all about product. And my understanding of sales is that product knowledge is only a small percentage. Like
I think
having,
it is the last bit.
yeah,
You need to be able to sell everything, and
that's
then
the
you need-
credibility,
yeah.
right? That's the credibility that you know what you're talking about by having that product knowledge. But if you don't understand how to sell that product, the person isn't going to take that step and buy it from you, or the service, whatever it is you're selling. So I really enjoyed that. And throughout that period, I've always had a passion for property, but working training estate agents, I knew exactly that was the complete opposite that I would ever want to kind of be involved in property. So dealing with the general public, people coming off the street, wasting your time, I would see the high levels of work people were putting in and just getting a really small amount of success from it. So estate agency wasn't my path. And it took me maybe 3 or 4 years until I kind of came across my entry into property.
And how was that? What made you start Casita Properties?
So that wasn't my entry. My entry was being approached by a company that was looking for a trainer for. At the time, I didn't know what the job was, but training a group of property sourcers, sales. So I'd never heard of property sourcing before, but the more I started to learn about it, the more I kind of was intrigued and thought, you know what, this is a great entry level into property. So you can almost learn and earn while I went along and learn from the company's experience. The company was a big company. They had over 70 staff. And I was to go in and manage and train a group of, it was eight to 10. It fluctuated again, sales. It was 8 one week and then 10 another week and then back down to 5. always. But they did things very differently there. It wasn't your bog standard sourcing. It was very creative ways of finding deals and making them into deals and packaging in them, selling them on to investors. And it was always focused around maximum profit for them. So
Was it buy and sell, buy and flip for investors? Or
it was typically we would find blocks of apartments and we would target the ones that have been on the market for a long time. And typically they've been on the market for a long time because estate agents didn't know how to sell blocks of apartments. They didn't have the buyer pool. And we would come along and we would say, look, we have huge amount of investors willing to buy the units, but no one that would be willing to buy the whole block. So we would do something called fractional sales where we would break the
it down.
title up, but we wouldn't buy it. So this would all be done under the current ownership. So we'd provide them with our preferred lease. We would agree a set figure, a discounted set figure for each unit, let's say 70 grand a unit. We would sell those at market value because we're selling it not as a bulk purchase now, but as an individual purchase. So maybe we'd sell it for, I don't know,
80,
maybe 80,000. So there'd be a 10 grand margin on each sale that we would make. Because we would give them enough money through the sale of the units, it meant that we could then inherit the freehold. So some freeholds we would complete on for £1 and would have a huge amount of value there. Other freeholds we would package and back to back onto a fund, and we would make 30, 35 times the annual ground rent for the whole block. And that could sometimes be 50, 60, 70,000 pounds. So my entry level
was in a very sophisticated
yeah. I think it's where
area in properties. That I think that's
it's
very good luck.
Yeah, I think it's where a lot of people anticipate they'll end up in maybe 10 years' time. So I learned at a very high level. And of course, these deals wouldn't have been possible without the huge team that they had around them. It's not something that even my experience now I could do on my own because there were so many moving parts. The sales team, the sales progressors, the person dealing with the freehold transaction.
Conveyancing is very important.
We had huge amounts of conveyancers on board one to do the lease, one to do the freehold, and all the other bits in between.
The point about this, everything is back to back.
Yes.
Because will you be selling the flat separately at separate time frames?
Yes.
Or you will align all the buyers in one day?
So some people would want that, and some lenders would want that. They would say, we're not willing to let the units go unless 5 out of the 10 units went at the same time.
Partially,
it was always really difficult because we would always say, look, the best thing about selling through us is that there's no chain. So we can complete as and when ready. And what we would do is find ourselves in a position where it's almost like we were in a chain because we were having to wait for the 5th person to get their act together. And we have 4 people that were waiting. And sometimes they could be waiting for a month or 2 months because maybe someone's got an issue with their
deposit or mortgage.
Yeah, or like their self-assessment that needs to go back and get rejigged, and then we got to wait for HMRC to approve it. And there were deals that fell apart because of that, especially if they came from receivers. So again, it's all about learning those really important skills of problem solving. That we had a great team and a very experienced team of sales progressors, some of which have been in the industry for like 25 years, and there wasn't a lot that they hadn't seen. So seeing that firsthand and learning from that just meant that I didn't then go on to make those mistakes further down the line.
Going back to the property sourcing that you're doing today, how easy is it to find properties from receivers?
It's tough now. And I think it's tough because a lot of them have been messed about in the past. A lot of them are now looking for the highest possible price for their clients, as before it was all about speed. So when we used to do it, it might be 5 flats in a block of apartments, not the whole block. So they would be like, we can either take this to market and it's going to take us a long time to sell these individually, or we could sell to you. You could sell them to your investors. Yeah.
Discount.
And we'll get the money in quicker because every month we let this go over, we're losing money. So back then it was okay. But my experience now is that a lot of receivers are a bit more comfortable and the lenders are more comfortable to allow time. And a lot more of this stock is going into auctions now.
I think because it used to be a very beautiful to buy from receivers because you can buy properties hugely discounted.
Yeah.
But I think now they just put them in the market and you're right, they don't care. I mean, I've seen a property that has been vacant for over 18 months. The receivers had it for over 18 months and they haven't put it on the market yet. They just give it to some off-market agents to try and get the highest price. And if they didn't get the price they want, they're going to put it in auction. And they were comfortable having it for 18 months sitting there.
I think it depends how much money they've got sitting there as well. I think if the lender's not applying pressure and maybe their leverage isn't high in that particular product, I don't think they're too worried. But I think if they're maybe highly exposed on that particular property, and I don't know, maybe it's 90% loan to value, and the
They
market
wanna
and the
get-
market and the market's
They want to
fluctuating,
get
that 10%
yeah.
downfall puts them in negative equity. So I think it just depends on the situation.
And what inspired you to start Casita Properties?
So the blocks started to dry up because there was the leasehold reform. So the value for us was in the freehold. So we'd be able to dictate what the ground rent was set out in the terms of the lease, and the money that was made on the freeholds that we were completing on for £1 and selling for 60,000 started to shrink and shrink and shrink, and they were still profitable, but not as much. And then lenders' criteria started to get stricter. So we took a block of 10 on, we would hit exposure levels with the high street lenders quite early. And then we'd find that investors weren't too happy to go to specialist lenders and pay an extra 2%. So I started looking at freehold houses, which was something that particular business wasn't kind of looking to do. And just from doing it, my experience when speaking to estate agents was that they really struggled to sell them. And being a problem solver, I just thought, let me explore exactly why they find it hard. And if I can build a business around what I see as a massive problem in the industry, it should be quite easy for me
And the
to grow.
problem was selling freehold houses.
The problem was selling tenanted freehold houses.
Okay.
And I think the problem kind of was that you've got two different kind of sellers, right? You've got a homeowner occupier seller, so you and I selling our residential house, who's highly motivated. If you tell me we need to have 3 open days for the next 3 Saturdays, I'm going to be open to that because it's an emotional sale. I'm selling it and it's all benefiting me. So I'll be as accommodating as I need to be, maximum viewing, stuff like that. But when you're selling a tenanted property, it's not necessarily about the landlord's motivation. It's about the tenant. And if you apply the same sales tactics or strategy on a tenanted property, very quickly, the tenant's going to get a bit annoyed. And what I was experiencing is that properties that have been on the market for a while, the biggest problem was that they can't get access anymore. And it's because in the early days, they just absolutely threw 10, 15 viewings in the first week at them. None of them amounted to anything. And the tenant just decided, I'm not prepared to keep doing this. And it's because the motivation isn't for the tenant. So we needed to understand, how do we get the tenant on board, and how do we reduce the amount of viewings, and how do we make this a service that estate agents would want to use us for. And it was really about, when we were going to view these properties, it was the tenants being unsure as to their future. Am I going to get kicked out when the new landlord takes over? Is the landlord going to be a landlord from hell? Are they going to whack my rent up? Like, all of these thoughts were going through their head, all of this anxiety, when in reality, you can stamp that out in one conversation. And if you conversate with them on a level, not just look at them as, oh, they're just the tenant, I would probably want to get them on side more so than the actual landlord.
They're actually more important than the landlord.
They are, yeah, because without them,
you're
not having a survey, you're not having viewings, and they stop paying the rent. That's one of the worst things that can happen, because any gaps in that rental statement, if the lender requests a rental statement,
they're not going to give the mortgage.
They're not going to lend on it. So it's all about keeping them on board.
Yeah.
And that was something we did with a very cheap bottle of wine, couple of phone calls, and just allowing us to get our team in there to do video walkthroughs and that, to reduce the number of viewings. So you couldn't book a viewing until you'd watched the video. Couldn't book a viewing until you'd had a conversation with us and we finalised that, one, you were financially qualified to buy that property.
So do you ask for proof of funds?
Sorry?
So you ask for proof of funds?
before we even deal with investors, they've got to provide us proof of funds, decision in principle, credit score. If they're not willing to provide that at the early stage, then they're probably going to be a pain further down the line. So that was our bare minimum at the start. If you want to come on board, you want to have access to these properties that are off market, this is our level of professionalism. We're not prepared to mess our vendors about. So you want to come on board, proof of funds, decision in principle, credit score. If we're happy with all three of those, then you're on our list and we can start sending you the properties that come our way that are off market. And that led to us having quite a high completion rate, like maybe 1 in 20 may fall through. And typically that was down to a survey, something like that.
I think that's a very, very unique and clever way of looking at it, because you actually solve the whole issue, which is always the tenant, by just making the tenant happy, and then you're able to sell the property.
Yeah, and there were certain times when maybe the property was underlet, and we would know that that would have an impact on the lending criteria, and we would say to the landlord, look, this needs to be increased by £50, and they would say, "Oh, find me a buyer, and then we'll increase it if they exchange." And you'd have to educate the landlord to say, look, you're not going to get to that stage if it's underlet, because the buyer's only interested at the current figures, not
the future
potentially.
figures,
Yeah.
yes.
And also, we need the rent to be market rent before we put a mortgage application in. So we need that increased by £50, and they wouldn't be willing to do it. So we would go to the tenant and we would say, look, we're selling this property. Currently, you're doing quite well. You're paying under market value. Now, one thing that's going to happen here is that when our client purchases, they're going to put your rent up. Now, we can do something to protect you, and we can get a new AST with the current landlord put in place with the new market rent, but we'll get that for 12 months. Currently, you're on a 6-month rolling contract. So that means for the next 12 months,
the rent is set.
Your rent is secured. And so we can either do £50 now, or the chances are you might have £50 when we complete, and then another £50. And they would always say, okay, we can do that. Or they might come back and say, we can only afford 40 or 25, whatever it is, any increase would help. We'd say, well, if it's only 25, it's going to be a 6-month AST. And we would do things like that, and they would feel comfortable again, because then they'd had their AST secured, whereas they might be on a rolling contract currently.
Okay, and regarding the assisted sales, what is assisted sales?
So
and how do you do it? And what difference does it make?
So we stumbled across this, and when I did it, I never knew of this strategy called assisted sales. But basically, we were being offered lots of properties from estate agents that would be great for our investors. So they were in great locations, the rents were good, the price was right, but the condition wasn't turnkey. And all of our investors are what we call armchair investors. They're not wanting to decorate or anything.
Get the hands dirty.
Yeah, not even shampoo a carpet. So we looked at it and we said, well, look, if you can get another £5,000 knocked off of the price of this property, I would be willing to put my money into this, because I know I've definitely got a buyer there to do the decoration. It's going to cost me £1,000, but I'll make £5,000. So return on investment, I know we're talking small figures, but return on investment is huge, right? Put 1,000 in, you make £4,000 in 2 months. It's good money plus your sourcing fee. And then I did another one, and we put like 3.5, £4,000 in. We made 16, and it just
so you put them in contract first.
Yeah. So we would, and again, it wasn't what I know now as an assisted sale contract, which is you've got power of attorney, you've got second charge and stuff like that. This was very much like a gentleman's handshake kind of. But for me, being a salesman, I know the first thing is all about trust, right? And if you can get to that level of trust with someone, when you're making 2, 3, 4, 500% return on investment on these deals, you can kind of allow that 1 or 2 might not quite work as well. It's like the stock market, right? You've got 10 shares in your portfolio. If 2 don't perform, you don't focus on the 2. You say, well, actually, we're still up by 50% on the year. So that's how I looked at it. But I'm not a risk taker. So for me, the small £5,000 in to make double, treble,
okay.
we're okay. I'm not a developer, and I'm like, I'm quite like vocal with this. I'm not a buy-to-let landlord. It's not for me. It doesn't excite me at all. I'm too active to park money and make £200 net a month off of it when I can put 1,000 into another deal and make
Five.
the profit of like a 5-year investment on that. So it doesn't make sense for me. And lots of people are shocked with the time I've been in property that I'm not a landlord. And it's funny because people measure your success on how many properties you've got in your portfolio. When you say none, they look at you like, well, why should I take your advice? And in reality, if you think about the reasoning why I'm not a landlord, you probably start to think, well, why would anyone be a landlord when you're making 2, 3, 4, 500% off of a deal? And look, I might only do 4 or 5 a year, but I'm not taking any risks. I'm not parking money. And the biggest thing for me is I'm not losing any money through purchasing costs, because you have to claw those back before you physically make a net profit. Lots of people write the purchasing costs off, right? And they go, well, I'm making net £300 a month, but you're not until you get that 10 grand's worth of purchasing costs back.
It's a very unique way to look at it.
Yeah.
So definitely the traditional landlord route is just becoming very unattractive now because of the high interest rates. The good days of 2 and 3% and 1.5% are not there anymore. So we used to be making £800 or £900 per property. Now you're right, £300-400 if we're lucky.
And that's providing you haven't got any voids or anything goes wrong with the property.
You try to do your best with references on tenants. You try your best by making sure that your tenant will have minimum of 12 months. But yeah, you're right. If the tenant leaves after a year, then you need another probably 4 to 6 weeks to get another tenant in, do touch-ups in the property, etc., etc. But it is, I think, properties are still a good method, a very good method of returning future wealth.
Yeah.
Because of capital appreciation, especially in the Southeast. Because you don't only look at the difference between your mortgage and your and what difference between your mortgage and the rent.
Yeah.
No, because I agree with you. Sometimes it can be only £400-500, and it takes you a year to make £6,000. You can make the £6,000 in any other places without tying 100 or 150 or 50 or 60 grand deposits plus solicitor's costs plus stamp duty plus and risk keep going on. But I think the thing is about the Southeast is the capital appreciation, because you wait 5 years, you refinance again, probably get the money out, or you wait 5 years and you want to sell, you would have made good capital appreciation plus. So it is different ways of thinking, but I completely agree with you, because for a landlord or a property developer or a property investor, it is not their day-to-day job. They do it on the side.
Yeah.
They are either IT consultants, they are whatever, but they have savings. And instead of having the savings in the bank going down in value by inflation, put their property, go up in value with inflation. And
I think it depends how active you are, right?
Exactly.
You and I are in this all day, every day, right? So we're always seeing opportunities. And the worst thing is knowing that you've just parked the last bit of your capital and then an amazing opportunity comes up and you don't have the cash. And yes, you can go out and raise finance and all of that, but there is an element, isn't there, that some people are just happy, like you said, they're in their 9 to 5, they get their annual bonus, they can buy another house, bit more income in 10 years' time. That will help bolster that retirement fund that they want when they retire, and that's all that they want. Or it might be something to leave as a legacy. So I think it depends on the individual. My clients are what we just described, the 9 to 5ers with capital to invest, but they don't have the time to do the legwork and
from your
everything
experience as a property sourcing, I'll say consultant or an expert, which are the best areas in the UK?
They're the areas that nobody knows about.
Okay.
So I do lots of free webinars online, and one of the questions I always ask people is, everyone put in the comments a property hotspot that you guys are interested in. It's always the same: Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, Leeds. It's all of these big university towns that everyone knows. And then my next question is, well, why do you think that? And 9 times out of 10, it's because they've been told it on the calls. They've read it in the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail have published that Manchester is the property
Booming, second
powerhouse.
London.
Yeah. The thing is, it's like buying stocks in Uber when they're a household name. There's no money to be made in it now. You want to buy Uber when it was a whisper, when everyone was saying there's this company, there's this app that's going to come out, and wherever you are in the country, you can order a cab straight to your feet. You can see how far they are, and it's going to be cheaper than a black cab. That's the time to invest. So when I'm training my mentees, the thing is, okay, so Manchester, so M1 is popping right now. But what's that ripple effect doing? What's the next area in the suburbs that's got that 5 to 10 year regeneration plan that if you get in now, in 5 years' time, you start to see
Huge
the
capital
big
appreciation.
growth. You don't make any money in the city centres anymore. They're all flats and they're all overpriced and they're all being sold to overseas investors, right? They're going to the Emirates, they're going over to the Far East. So, like right now, I'd say right now, but 2 years ago, the biggest place that I was looking was the Everton Valley. So Liverpool's got loads of money being ploughed into the docks and everywhere like that. But if you look at the Everton Valley, new football stadium, new transport links, new national developers going there with plans to build big housing developments, new retail parks, all of these things are going to start pushing the price up. If you go onto like Taylor Wimpey's website, and you can see that they've got a site. So they've got some land that's banked and it says they're putting planning permission in for 500 houses.
You want to be around there.
Yeah, if they haven't put a spade in the ground yet because they're still going through planning, they're not going to get rejected on full planning. It will just be you can have full planning if you do X, Y, and Z. You need to put doctor's surgery in there or you need to contribute to the roads or whatever it might be. Yeah. So you know that if the average price of a 2-bedroom terrace house is 100 grand, you know Taylor Wimpey are going to be releasing those at 130, 140. And over the next 5 years, those second-hand homes will gradually start to creep up. Everyone pays premiums for new builds, but as someone who's lived on a new build development, give it 5 years, give it 10 years, nobody wants to live on that new build development because once the developer has sold out and they've moved off, it all goes downhill. The service charge companies charge loads of money. They don't look after it. So then those secondhand properties become more attractive. They've got period features. They've got more space. They've got bigger gardens. You're not overlooked. So then they kind of run at the same level. All of a sudden, they're both at 140 grand. So those older properties make
So you made
great
40%
investments.
in 5 years.
Exactly. So that's always the thing that I say to people, like, look for areas like that where the regeneration hasn't started. And
so what do you think are the future areas?
Well, until last week, I had an area that I'd sold a lot of property in based on a whisper. But the government have actually come out and just basically pulled the plug on the plan. So there's an area in Cumbria called Whitehaven, and Cumbria is very much like a mining area. And they were looking to build £100 million coal mine, like one of the biggest in the UK. And it was going to bring a huge amount of jobs, huge amount of employment growth, economic growth to the area, the amount of houses that would have needed to have been built there. And it was on, off for about 3-4 years. They've pulled the plug now, but how I saw that was that coal mine is going to take at least 2 to 5 years to be built, right? So you're going to have contractors coming in. So if you can have large HMO style properties in that area to rent on corporate lets, you're going to make a ton of money. And once those properties are then, once that coal mine is then built,
and if
you've
people
then
are
got,
out, then you rent it to normal
then
people.
you rent
there.
it on, or even still keep it as a HMO. Maybe you still get people come during the week to work there and go home on the weekends to their family.
And why did the government pull the plug?
Well, it's climate, right? They're pushing green rather than that, and it makes sense. But it did look like it was going to happen. And it's like HS2, right? It's on, it's off, it's on, it's off.
Now it's off.
Yeah, but it's made its money on the whisper. So you've just got to look for these areas, and look, like everything, it's going to be a risk. But the one thing I'll say with property is it's always going to be worth something. Stocks and shares could fall out of the sky, right?
100%. You always find people.
So the risk isn't like I'm going to lose all of my money. It will never be that.
No, your risk.
The risk is I might be down 10%
or flat appreciation.
Yeah,
no appreciation.
Exactly,
just flat.
Yeah,
for the next 10 years. So you're just getting cash flow, but you're not getting any appreciation.
Exactly.
And over the past 8 years, you worked with a variety of creative property strategies. Which strategy or deal do you think is the most rewarding one?
The most rewarding. God, there's lots of them. The most rewarding in the way we found it, or finance?
I think for your investors, yeah, finance.
So
I mean, if you have an
yeah,
investor now, I'm telling you, look, I have the money.
yeah,
Just tell me what is the best strategy for me.
yeah. So we had one in Liverpool. It's a HMO that came up for sale, and it was we got offered it on LinkedIn. So we spoke off camera. We were speaking about lead generation, and LinkedIn for me has been like the best place to find both investors and off-market deals. And this particular guy approached me and said, I've got a HMO that I'm looking to sell in Liverpool. Can you help? And it needed some work. And we looked at it and we thought maybe this is a good assisted sale for one of our investors. We could pay to do it up, but the works were coming in too much. It was over 20 grand and the deal just wouldn't have worked. So we approached the owner and said, look, it's going to cost 20 grand to actually make it compliant. It's currently not compliant. Your fire doors aren't going to pass regs. You haven't had your fire alarms done for a while. And the front of the house had lots of cracks. So there's lots that needs doing. Anyway, they agreed to put the 20 grand in and give us the property for £100,000. So it's a 5-bedroom HMO. And we sold it to our investor for 120. So we made a 20 grand profit on it, but it was worth at least 180. But we were limited to how much profit he was willing to let us make. His main thing, he could have made money from this, right? He could have said to us, you can have it at 150 and sell it for 180. But he was going through a divorce, so he didn't want to make any money on it. He wanted to sell out at the mortgage.
At the mortgage.
At the mortgage. So for our buyer, they bought in nearly £60,000 below the commercial valuation. So,
that's at least 50% off.
Yeah. So they made a huge amount of money on that. We made a 20 grand sourcing fee, so we were happy. I think we ended up contributing maybe like £3,000 towards the refurb because there were certain things he wasn't willing to cover. But that was a deal that was rewarding for us, but more importantly for our investor as well.
So you think the best strategy is the assisted sales strategy?
I think for me, it is. For my investors, I never sell on assisted sale because there's no point. The return on investment for me, if I didn't have the money for it, I'd beg, borrow, and steal for the money for it because I could pay the person back double the money that they lent me and still make 100% myself. So they're never deals that I package and sell. But I think if I'm looking at the best deals right now, I mean, like social housing seems to be one of the sexy words that are out there at the moment. HMOs.
Do you actually think social housing will remain at its peak like that?
So,
I think the government is just hemorrhaging money left, right, and center on that. I think they need to be an end.
I mean, like they are. I saw something the other day that they've just pledged another huge figure. I'm not going to guess what the figure was, but they've just pledged a lot more money to social housing as well. I don't know how reliable that will be. I do believe that they can pull the contract at any time.
That's
as
what
well.
I think, because
So if you bought that property on the basis that you've got a 5-year secured rent, I think you need to have that contingency that if this doesn't work, does it still stack at a
because
standard?
Your tenant is not actually probably be a housing association that has a contract from the local council to rent them the properties. If the local council come after a year or 2 years, tell them we cannot pay these rates anymore, the housing association cannot sustain these rates. The housing association, I'm sure there will be some sort of a break clause that they can just terminate, and it is I don't see it going on for a very long time.
And there's also the kind of the maintenance of that as well, right? So I've got a good friend who's quite big in social housing, and he's actually speaking at my event on Saturday. And just watching his stories on Instagram, the glass hob smashed, and he goes in there and he's asking the guy, why did you do that? And I think the guy was autistic, something like that, and he said because I felt like it. Then you're having to get carers involved, and you've got to replace that. And it, again, yes, you've got that secure income coming in, but it increases the level of work that you need to put in. Therefore, your pound per hour then starts.
Exactly, and they need to hire a bigger team to be doing that.
Yeah, so everything I do is pound per hour, and I set my pound per hour. I know what my value is for myself, and I set that high. And if the job is below my pound per hour and I don't enjoy the job, then you outsource it. If there are certain low value jobs that I enjoy doing, like the graphic design stuff, I still have a passion for graphic
But
design.
it's a habit. It's a hobby.
Yeah, and
It's
I
not a
enjoy
job.
doing it. And whenever I get someone else to do it, I go, yeah, probably could have done better. So I do that. And yes, pound per hour, it doesn't pay me anywhere near what if I focused on property or any of my other businesses. But I think there has to be an element of you enjoying what you do as well, and not just focused on the high pressure, high kind of value tasks as well.
Tell us more about your events business.
Yeah, so I've got 3 events businesses. The first events business is with my business partner Aaron. We set this up 2.5 years ago now. It's called Peak Performance Events, and it's an entrepreneur-based London event. So we have around 250 people attend, and we have the biggest speakers in business. So this isn't property. And the reason we set this up is we were going to property events, and it just didn't. I think people go to events because it's in their local area, but they don't go with an intention of what they want to do, who they want to meet. And most of us go to these events to meet investors. But investors go to these events because they want to learn how to do something so that they don't have to use you. They're not going to the event going, I really hope I meet a property sourcer today, because their impressions of property sources at this event are that most of them are inexperienced. So thinking, well, if I want to find investors, who is my ideal client? And it's CEO, managing directors, managerial level, people high up within businesses that have money but are busy.
Busy and they can't do themselves.
Yeah. So we created entrepreneur events where we invited CEOs and managing directors and people like that. And yes, at the start, we had a high property crowd there because that was our audience. But gradually, that property crowd has probably gone to like 10% of the audience now, which is quite nice for us. And for me, I'm not really interested in learning more about property. I kind of know what I want to do in property. My biggest thing is I want to learn about business, how I can scale my business, how I can generate more leads, how I can leverage social media. So for me, it made sense to make that event. If the event doesn't exist, you make it. And we did so well from our first 2 events that we actually got approached by one of Lord Sugar's aides, and they came on as our main sponsor. So they've been a sponsor for 2 years now. They're called Trademark Wizards. So they're a trademarking business. And only last month, we got our second Lord Sugar sponsor on, which is Lord Sugar's grandson, who's just taken over Amstrad. So I don't know if you remember Amstrad, but Lord Sugar's just purchased Amstrad back off of Sky, and they've created it as a digital marketing agency. So they've now taken over as the sponsor of Peak Performance. And that for us, having that kind of credibility of someone like that being on board, Lord Sugar's done a couple of videos endorsing the event and stuff like that, is an incredible achievement for me.
It is a very big achievement.
I grew up watching The Apprentice, and I think my family could see that entrepreneurial spirit in me, and it was always a joke of, you need to go on there, you need to go on there. And I kind of feel like I have what I would need if I did go on that show right now. I've got that association. So yeah, so that's been a great thing. So that's our entrepreneur event. We do VIP events with that as well, and we do online.
What's the difference?
So the VIP events are for exposure for us. So we did one last month in Brighton. So we hire out a trendy bar, trendy restaurant, and we just invite big influencers within business and social media. And it's all about having an amazing night and having as many reshares from people with massive audiences. And it's just about getting the logo, the brand out there. And that was our first one we did. And it was incredible. We had an amazing night. Some of the people there had tens of millions of followers, and just the reshares with our logo on just increased our following massively overnight. Our impressions flew. So it's a great thing to be associated with. I then have my property events. So that's the property social events. And we've got one in Manchester on Saturday. So it's called the Manchester Property Social. And again, looking at problems and then doing a solution. So typically property events are during the week. They're midweek, every first Tuesday, every last Thursday. They're always in a golf club or they're in a Premier Inn conference suite. And I just thought, you know what? There's a whole audience there that can't get there during the week. They've got, maybe it's the location doesn't work for them. Maybe they've got work. Maybe they've got family to worry about and they can't get out during the week. So what if we create an event that is a Saturday evening and we make it a social event as well? So you get what you need, you get your networking, you get your learning, a couple of good speakers, but then you can let your hair down and just have a good time with people. So we have around 70 to 100 people coming to the Manchester event. It's in the city centre, really nice location. So that's our property event. So we've got entrepreneurship and we got property. But my absolute baby in the event space is the hybrid. So
Both.
So I have the Property and Entrepreneur Summit. So we did our very first one, and I'm partnered with Your Property Network magazine on this. So we're partners in it. And for me, it's the thing that's missing in the property industry. Everyone teaches property, but
no
nobody
one
teaches you business.
Yes.
So you have these people leaving their 9-to-5s, their comfortable 9-to-5, where they wear a single hat in that business, their finance, their marketing, whatever it might be. And they're told you can leave your 9-to-5 if you learn property. And then they go out into the big wide world and there's 10 hats. There's 10 hats
and
that you've got to wear.
It's not enough to be able to generate the income you're getting from your job. In properties, you need to have a big portfolio.
Exactly.
It's not.
Yeah. So for me, coming from a sales background, one of the most important things that I thought people needed to understand was sales. They need to understand marketing. They need to understand business. They need to understand time management, problem solving. That's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I want to learn about. And I see the benefits that that's had in my business. So it made sense that if we could create this, we call it the Summit. It's based in Milton Keynes. The next one's in November. We can do it where the morning is the property morning and we have the biggest names in property speaking there. Then the afternoon is the entrepreneur afternoon and we have the biggest names in business speaking there. Zero selling, no products, no services, no courses being sold.
It's just all learning.
It's all learning. We make it an all-inclusive event. You're there for the whole day. That's your food. That's your drink.
And how many people are you?
So the last event we have 400. This event we aim for the same if we can. Right now, we're probably looking at about 250, 300. It's a bit slower in the winter. But for me, it's about providing more value than people are paying for. We charge £150 for a standard ticket, £230 for a VIP ticket. And what I feel that does is ensures that we have high caliber attendees as well. So it's not a £1 event. It's not a £10 event. It's £150 that you're investing to come to an event, not get pitched to. That's the main thing. Most events charge you £1, but you come out spending 10 grand. So you're paying £150 to come and have a really good day. And our last event, we had Rob Moore, Sad Hussein, Hayley Andrews, John Howard, Andrew and Ranjan, Daniel Priestley.
Wow.
So we had an incredible lineup. This event, we've got myself, Jamie York, Richie Clapson, Simon Zucci, James Sinclair, who's got one of the biggest podcasts, Shah Wuzman. We've got a social media panel, one expert for each platform. And it's just going to be incredible value. So I'm so passionate about this event because I don't think there's any other event like it in the property space.
The only thing I can think of similar to that, but it's much bigger in the US, is the Grant Cardone one.
Yes.
10X.
Yeah. But that's mega money, right? So this is affordable, and this isn't done for profit, and this isn't done for selling courses. This is done because it's a passion of ours. Yes, we get exposure. That's what I want from it.
But you also teach. You also teach people a lot.
Teach people a lot. And my biggest thing is that if you sell yourself well enough on the stage, customers will come. You don't always have to be selling a product on stage. I think you get better results if you sell yourself well than if you get people running to the back of the room, right? So, as I said, we got the biggest speakers there. And outside of the biggest speakers, some of the VIPs that we have coming deserve to be on that stage as well. So we've got some other big names coming. So if people can dig deep and go VIP, they get a 2-course lunch with all of our speakers and all of our VIPs. Like they'll be in a room and on a table with people they would never be able to conversate with. Yeah. So it's a really, really valuable event. Proud of the first one. Second one, I'm looking forward to, and then we see where
Good
we
luck.
take it next. Yeah, we see where we take it next
Good
year.
luck. What is the most common mistakes you see entrepreneurs make when they're trying to break into the property industry?
Interesting one. We did a Instagram live last night, so we've got our online peak performance event next Tuesday, and it's all around mindset. We were talking about the mindset of a successful entrepreneur, and the mistake that most people make is that they don't think further than the first sale that they want to make. You need to think of the bigger picture, where you want to be, and then reverse engineer that, and then make stepping stones to that, so you understand exactly how you're going to get there. More importantly, people don't understand who they're trying to sell to, and they might have an idea. So like you see this on Dragon's Den, people have invested their whole house equity into creating a product that they haven't tested. They don't know if they think it's a good idea, but they don't know if there's actually a customer base out there. So I always say to people, think of the product that you want to build, and then just go out there. And like back in the day, that would be people with clipboards in the high street asking you questionnaires. But now we have social media. So get on social media and ask people what it is that they want from that product. And if that's miles apart from what you envisaged,
Then you have to stop.
then you have to listen to what the
and
customer
listen.
base is saying. So if you get 100 people say, we like that product, but we would want it to do X, Y, and Z, well, you build it to X, Y, and Z because you've got 100 people saying they would want to buy it. So it's the same with courses. If I'm going to build a new course in my training program, I want to hear what people want. So I'll put polls out that's saying, what are 5 things that you feel most education courses are not providing you with? And everyone tells me what they think is missing, and I just ensure that I build that into my next course. And then that way I'm providing the solution to the problem that those people are facing, and I have a list of people to target straight away.
So I think the big problems entrepreneurs are facing that they don't listen to the market.
I think
and they don't listen to
I think they're impatient. I think they have unrealistic expectations, and I think a lot of them try to run before they can walk. It's like
everyone wants overnight success.
So I do discovery calls. So anyone that wants to become a mentee of mine, I don't take anyone on. If someone's been on 3 masterminds already, I begin to think it's not the education, it's you. So I won't take them on because I don't want to be another mentor on their CV as an excuse why they didn't do well. So I interview everyone. And I was speaking to someone yesterday, and we were talking about this, and we were saying, the thing is, people go on these courses and they come away and they've got like a 28-day challenge to find your first deal. But you can't, that's not enough time to build your business out. You need to have built your business out first before you start getting investors, you start taking on properties, because you don't have that customer journey in place. You don't have your processes in place. And the reason most people and most sources deals fall through on the first one is because they're winging it the whole way. They get the deal and then they go, right, I've got the deal, right, I need to sell this. How do I get an investor? And then they luckily find an investor, and the investor says yes. And then they're like, what do I do now? How do I get this into legals? And then they're on Facebook, because anyone got a sales memorandum template, I need to send it out. And they're just not prepared. They haven't reversed engineered. There's completion. How do I get to completion? Work it all the way back to the client initially coming through your funnel. You build that customer journey out, you get all your contracts, your processes in place, and it gives you the best possible chance of getting that through to completions. But 99...
I think that's part of entrepreneurship, because part of entrepreneurship, you do mistakes and you learn.
You do, but if you can reduce those mistakes, so look, I've made lots of mistakes, and I haven't invested into property education. I've made the mistakes and learned from them, and I feel I've probably lost more than I would have invested
in a property education course.
Yeah, but you learn more from your mistakes than you do from someone saying, and this is how amazing I am, and you can do this too, right? So the way I teach is I teach people based on my mistakes rather than, and then we did this deal and this was amazing and you can do this. My teaching is, so I did this deal and this is why this deal fell through. And people will understand what to avoid.
What to avoid, yeah.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone? What advice would you give to someone who wants to build a strong network of professionals?
They want to build a strong network. So I would say that you have to look at who you think you can work with first. So we mentioned when I was younger, I was 15 talking to people 3 times my age. I felt comfortable doing that. But one thing I'm realizing now is that the younger generation, these teenagers, early 20s, some of them can't hold a conversation with each other, let alone someone of an older
All day.
generation. So if they're saying my ideal client are people at retirement age, I want to help people invest their pensions, you've got to understand, is that actually the kind of person that you're going to gel with? Because like you said, people buy from people like them. So if
Are
that's,
you on the same mindset? Do you
yeah.
think the same way?
And if you're not, you've got to make a choice. Either,
Change or
yeah,
change?
like,
It's change yourself or change your audience.
yeah, like I've got lots of mentees that are from China and Hong Kong. And they're very conscious that maybe with their accent and their lack of English, there might be a language barrier that will prevent them from having a level of success dealing with UK clients. So then my next question is, well, do you have a community that you can tap into in Hong Kong or in China? And they're like, well, yeah. Well, that's who you need to network with. If that's where your strength lies, network with people that
That
you can
us.
relate to. So like I see a lot of young kids doing rent to rent deals. They're selling it to other young people that are wanting to get on the market. They're not selling it to you and I who are experienced. They might want to sell to you and I,
But not now.
but we're never going to buy into them, right? So there's all these things you have to consider. So you need to understand who you want to network with. For me, I want to network with decision makers. So whatever I'm doing, I won't waste my time with the person who can't give me a yes or a no. If you can't give me a yes or a no and you've got to go to John, introduce me to John and I'll go to John. But I'm not interested in the small talk anymore. I've been there, I've done that, and I've wasted so many years on networking with the wrong people. Now I look at networking events and I think, right, let me look at the last 5 networking events that this company's done.
Who was there? Who
Yeah.
was?
Well, I'm looking at what you're wearing. So I don't want to turn up like this if everyone's in a suit. But at the same time, I don't want to wear a suit and shirt, jeans and shirt, if people are just more casual. So I'm looking at 1, what am I going to wear? 2, what's the environment like? 3, what kind of people are there? Who's tagged in the pictures there? Do I know anyone? Can I speak to them first to
What
say,
is the
how did you
businesses?
find it and stuff like that?
And what is their businesses as well?
Yeah.
Because I think it's a very big mistake when you go to a networking event and you don't talk with people that are 3-4 years, that you are 3-4 years ahead of them.
Yeah.
Because you're not there building your network. You are
No.
there teaching them.
Exactly.
And I think time is very valuable to go there and try and sit with to network with people that you are there to teach them. No, you want to sit with people that you are of some sort of the same caliber, that you both share experience with each other and share network with each other, and then
Exactly.
see how both you can help each other.
I think one thing that I found as well is some people are very short-sighted with networking. So you and I are having a conversation now, and I might think, there's no synergy. Like there's nothing that we can do together. But what people don't appreciate is it's still worth you and I being connected because of the people that you're connected to.
Exactly.
It only takes a conversation with me and
find-
you.
Find something
Say,
you're looking for
yeah.
that I might know.
Yeah, you know what?
someone
That doesn't
providing it.
work for me, but actually my business partner is actually doing something similar. Let me link you two together. So when you go networking, I think you have to have a clear plan of who you're looking to find. Otherwise, you won't find them. So for me, certain events, I'm going to find mentees. If I know it's an event that's predominantly sources there, then I'm going to look for potential mentees for my training program. If I'm going to a business networking event, well, then I'm looking for opportunity of sponsorship for my events, or I'm looking for investors. I'm going to the property investor show tomorrow up at the XL. I'm not really interested to go to the stands. I'm just going to walk around,
Try to get more
see
investors.
who I see, have some conversations. I'll probably go with a branded jumper on so people recognize what I'm doing, talk about the summit, talk about this, talk about that. I'm going there to prospect.
Either investors
yeah.
or people for your events.
Whereas most people
Or
are going there
sponsorships.
to get a free USB and a pen and some chocolates and whatever else people are handing out on the stand. So I think you need a clear picture of what you're looking to achieve when you go to an event. I went to an event the other day in London, actually, and when you book on Eventbrite, there's like 10 different tickets and they're limited on the amount of tickets per thing. So are you a mortgage broker? Are you an architect? Are you an accountant? Are you a property source or a land broker? Maximum of 6 people per one. So 60 people in the room, and everyone has a different colored dot on their badge. And I know that if I'm looking for an accountant, they've got a green dot on their badge. So I'm walking around, I'm scouting out for the green dots. And that's the first time I've been to an event where that's happened. And it was really good because then I knew who I was looking out for in that room. I was actually looking for a property accountant to speak to. So there were 6 people in there and I targeted those people. After that, everyone else was secondary to me.
What do you think of endorsements for events? Celebrity endorsements like Lord Sugar companies endorsing your event business. Does that
It's
help you? Does that give you more credibility?
it gives you credibility to a certain extent. It doesn't sell tickets. Same as big speakers don't sell tickets. Like you think the lineups that we have at our events, like sometimes like we've had Rob Moore at our event, you think, right, well, people are going to come to see Rob.
2.3 million followers on
Yeah,
Instagram. We were thinking they got a
but
lot of followers. A lot
but
of
that doesn't sell tickets. An announcement of Rob Moore doesn't sell tickets.
what
And announce
sells?
what sells pain points. So again, reverse engineer. What's Rob going to be speaking about? Rob's going to be speaking about mindset, imposter syndrome, limited beliefs, all these things. So what are the pain points that we can put out? Are you suffering with imposter syndrome? Do you think you're not good enough for the job that you want to do? Have you ever thought about wanting to earn £10,000, but you just don't think it's achievable? Come to our event where Rob Moore will be blah, 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 covering this. So it's the pain points of that. The name Rob Moore isn't enough to sell it. Same as we could have Stephen Bartlett. It's not enough to sell it. We had Daniel Priestley twice. It's not enough to sell it. Yes, when people are there, they say, oh, I came to see Daniel Priestley, but that wasn't enough to sell it. We had to say what Daniel was going to be covering at the event and what you could get from it. So it's really important that you understand the pain points of your ideal client so that you can market effectively.
Do you think the pressure of hustle and constantly be productive and constantly working creates toxic culture that negatively impacts mental health and family?
100%, because I'd say that I probably deal with that every day as well. So running, what have I got? I've got 3 events companies. I've got my property business. We've got a clothing brand and we've got the academy. So I've got like 6, 7 businesses now. It takes a lot of work. There are days where I'm at my desk in my house at 8 o'clock in the morning once I've dropped the kids off at school, and I might not stop until 10 o'clock. But I'm doing what I need to do to provide the life that I want to provide my family. Does that mean that my family sometimes get neglected? Yes, definitely. Does it mean sometimes I might be stressed out? And it's not, I mean, like if you have one business and you're stressed out with something, imagine having 5, 6, 7 stresses of 5, 6, 7 businesses, because most of the time it's going to be stressful. So do you snap? You probably do. I don't sleep well. So lack of sleep, long working hours, lots of stress, it all has that impact on your mental health. But for me, my release is holidays. So not next week, the week after, I'm on my 6th holiday of the year. I work hard and then I have time to relax and recover. And then I get to spend that time with the family. So you have to weigh it up. This weekend, I'm away. So I'm in Manchester doing my Manchester event. I'll get back mid-afternoon on Sunday. It leaves me with a couple of hours to spend on that weekend with the kids. But they appreciate what I'm doing what I need to put them through private education, give them everything that they want, have nice cars, nice holidays. So it's one of those. But when I spend time with them, they value it more. But they appreciate that I'm busy.
So 100% you agree that there can never be balance? Because your
it's
holidays,
tough.
you
Yeah.
are compensating. This is a compensation.
Yeah.
This is not a balance. So
No.
it's either having all the time in the world at home with the kids, but having a very normal life and a very moderate life, or trying to just hustle as much as you can, so then you can provide them with
Yeah. I'd say I'm
more
a
exceptional life.
hustler. I'm the whole conforming to a 9 to 5 and closing that laptop and turning the phone off right now is not an option for me, because I'm looking to build 5 mega businesses. when they get to the stage that they need to be,
Then
maybe
you
then I'll
can.
be in a position to do that. But life's getting tougher, right? We got a Labour government, taxes are going up, VAT on the kids' schools. Like there's all these things happening.
I think I heard someone saying that capital gains might go up to 40%.
Yeah, and small businesses as well are going to be hit hard as well. Like I can see your dividends being. I think it's going to come in line with income tax at some point. So you're being hit from every
All
angle.
sides.
You're selling deals to landlords, but they're making it more difficult for landlords to
To make
profit.
money.
So
Yeah.
therefore, your database is shrinking there. Your taxes are going up. So you've got to work double hard again. So I don't think anyone can be comfortable and say I have
Will you ever think
100%.
to relocate
Oh,
with all the
If-
opportunities in the Middle East right now?
so I've thought about relocating, and the thing is, I'm fortunate enough that I have a lot of family around me, and I feel like if I move too far away, that would hit me harder than what I'm having to deal with right now by living in this country.
You'd rather pay taxes than being away.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it's like the whole coming from a Lebanese family and like every weekend you're around your family and stuff like that. I've got a very big family, and I think I'd feel quite lonely if I'd move somewhere. And also, look, I've got event businesses. I need to be around for those. I speak at lots of events. If I'm flying all the time, that means it's more time away from the kids. I am tempted to relocate from London and go closer to the coast, and that's more just a headspace thing. I spent a lot of time in the summer with my brother and sister-in-law. They live on the Isle of Wight. Really lovely lifestyle. They've got enough property that gives them income that they don't have to do much work. And it's down to the beach in the morning, down to the beach in the afternoon, and it's just fresh air and just a much more slower
Better
pace
quality
of
of
life.
life.
Yes, but at the same time,
It's too early for that.
it's too early for that. But at the same time, would that make you more productive by feeling like you can breathe a little bit more? It's not as fast paced. Who knows? But right now, so one conscious thing that I did last year is we sold our family home for an extremely good price, and we decided to rent instead. So the area that we wanted to move to for the school is massively expensive, and the cost of purchasing the house that we would want to live in was more expensive than what it would cost to rent because of the interest rates.
The mortgage will just be.
Yeah, and well, the stamp duty. So like for me, I have that flexibility now that I'm not tied anywhere. So some people go, "Why are you renting? It's dead money." But in reality, it's dead money in stamp duty that I would have paid out. We're talking to the tune of like 100 grand probably in stamp and legals and everything like that.
You know
So,
what's the best thing to do? Stop a bungalow.
Yeah.
Very underpriced.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the best area you want, or a land.
Yeah.
You really don't pay a lot of stamp duty, and you just put your touch.
Yeah.
Because
all
I
the-
agree with you. A £2 million house, you pay around, I don't know, 150 grand stamp duty probably, something like that.
Exactly. And we're in the house that we need to be in. We're right next to the school. The convenience is great for us, but the rent that we are paying
It's less than the mortgage that you
is
will
less.
pay.
I see the mortgage because the bills come in for the landlord still to us, so I see what the mortgage payments are, and they're eye watering until they renew it. So, and obviously with the rental cap, they can't keep putting it up. It'll be above market rate. So for us, we've got all of our money in the bank, earning interest. We got flexibility. If we say let's move away, we can move away and just go on a 6-month contract and see how we get on somewhere else. So again, it's looking at things differently. Like everyone says, being a landlord's amazing, owning your own house is amazing, it's an asset. But for me, having flexibility and having access to capital is also a massive benefit as well.
I agree with you. Do you think education system is failing by not teaching people the life skills they
I don't
need?
think we've got enough time on this podcast left for that. But I do believe that. I think it's massively understaffed, and my eldest daughter went to a state school for a period of time, and I just wasn't happy with the lack of education she was getting. It wasn't compulsory to read and stuff like that. And I made a conscious effort to take her out and put her into private school. And it wasn't until we put her into private school that we actually realized how far behind she was in comparison to the others there.
Especially in the maths
Yeah, so she
and
started.
sciences.
Yeah, she started midway through year 2, so she'd had 2.5 years plus COVID in between as well. So that was homeschooling for a lot of the time. So it's not that generation wasn't a great start to education, but the maths, like you said, it's the language in which it is. It's not 2+2; it's 2+2 said in 4 different ways, and you've got to compute that in your head as well. And there's times she's coming home with fractions and stuff like this, and you're thinking, Christ, this is challenging for me. But my youngest started private school in reception last year. Seeing her start in a private school to where she was at the end of reception, I would honestly say that's where my eldest daughter was at the end of year 2, going to a state school.
I
So
re-
it shows
I really,
how, yeah,
I really believe it's not okay. Now we have here 2 points. Okay, we can compare private school to state school. That's a point, and the whole educational system. That's another point.
yeah,
Okay, state school to private school, day and night. There's no comparison between both. Okay, I am a firm believer private school, private school, private school. Not only for education, also for the people that you're surrounded with, the network that your kid will be building from a very young age. Who be their friends, the families of their friends. You will feel more comfortable them going out with these kids, etc. A
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
The list can keep going on and on and on. But I believe also that the whole educational system is screwed up because there's a lot of stuff that kids will never learn
And never use.
and teenagers will never learn, and it's just becoming more detrimental for generations. And it just
I think when we were looking around different schools, one of the things that stood out with this school, so this is an all girls school, was that everything was about empowering young girls and giving them confidence, which is something that I love. I'm a firm believer in property. That's one of my missions with my events, that every event we do, it's a 50-50 split of male to female ratio speakers. I don't believe that what's predominantly been a white male speaker lineup at events over the last 10 years is where it needs to be now. I think men can learn a lot from women. Women can learn a lot from men. And I think women have learned a lot from men. They've had to, because there haven't been any
exposed,
female
and they
kind
haven't
of
been
people
exposed
top.
to the
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the
And I
market.
think someone like Hayley Andrews is doing amazing things. I'm really good friends with Hayley. I'm speaking at her event next week. And being able to even have access to 8 females to be on my stage that I think are powerful enough women to control that audience of 400, typically men in the audience, is a massive achievement. For my girls, one of the things that I liked at this school is that, yes, they speak about curriculum and stuff like that, but what was more important was the values of the school. So it was all about innovation, problem solving, teamwork. That's all the stuff that I believe in and I've self-educated myself in. And like you said, who they're around, you've got celebrities there, you've got directors of banks, you've got fund managers, you've got some big influential people there, and the kids that are there are very polite, they're very grounded, they're you just feel confident that they're not
You don't
around
see
the
them
wrong
drunk on
people.
the pavement on
Well,
Friday
you know
evening.
what? Sometimes people with money are the worst people to be around. But from what I'm witnessing right now, we've got a new group of friends, great group of friends. Look, I'm the poor uncle in the group right now, but that's a great thing, right? Because it pushes you
Yeah,
to aspire to be more. So being around people like that is great, and it gives me that push. But it's definitely something that I'm not worried about my girls going to college or uni if they don't want to. My eldest, like you said, maths, she's struggling on her maths. She's okay on her English, but she's amazing at sport. She's gymnastics, swimming squad. She's in the cross country team. If that's the route she wants to go down and that's what makes her happy, she wants to be the next Olympian, I'm really happy with that. My other one is really into her education and academic side of it. As long as they're happy, as long as they're doing something they're happy with, I'll never force them to go to uni to start their life off in debt, get a degree where they'll come out and then they're told they're overqualified to then get a job. That happened to my wife. She got her first degree. She ended up working for her dad. She could have cut out the 5 years or 6 years of college and uni and just gone and worked for her dad and
And
had,
also cut out her debt.
well, her dad paid for it, luckily. But
Good.
at the same time, like, she could have had 6 years worth of experience and learning. Has she used her marketing skills that she did in uni to a certain degree? I think if you want to be a doctor and you have to get that certificate,
Then you have to.
cool. Solicitor, cool. But I think if you can find a company that will take you under their wing
As
and
an intern and teach
yeah,
you.
as like an apprentice, whatever it might be, I think that is the best start in life. I really do. People say you need to go to uni to get life experience. Well, I got enough life experience by not prioritizing going out at a young age, but working on the market from the age of 12. I worked on Dagenham Market. I worked in Bromley Market. I worked on loads of markets, Southend Market, just to earn £30 a day to do like 9 hours work. But that's what grounded me. So I don't believe you have to go to uni. I don't believe you have to go to college. I do believe that you've got people on social media right now earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a month from just talking on there or just doing sketches. I've got lots of friends that are earning mega money off of TikTok right now. Some of them are just DJing in the street. If that's what you want to do, you want to be a DJ, you don't have to go to a club and DJ anymore. You can do it online and earn 10 times more money. So I think it's just supporting the kids, educating them. And if there's something they're interested in, help self-educate them a bit more. That's what I did. I self-educated myself in something that I was interested in. Wasn't interested in English, science, history. I was interested in
properties and business.
business, money. How do I make money? How do I keep it? How do I invest it? And how do I grow a business? And I think that's why I've got to hustle, because I'm addicted to the buzz of it. And when I get to a certain level,
Does stress make you work harder?
it forces you to work harder, right? Like, obviously, the more successful you become, the more money you start spending, the more your overheads become. So it gives you a level of stress. But you look at people that live with their parents, earning £2,000 a month, living with your parents, giving them £100 a week. That's comfortable, right? You're never going to grow. But that second that your mum and dad say it's time for you to move out and you go and rent a flat for £1,100, and by the time you buy your food and you pay your electric and that, and you realise, I haven't got any money left out of my £2,000 now, that stress is what pushes you or forces you to either go and get a better job, take up a second job, or if you're commission based, earn more commission. So I think it's stress is good if it's what drives you. Stress drives me, and I always perform well under stress. Like, I could be selling a course and say, right, I've got another 10 people to get on this course, and not know where they're coming from and feel really stressed out.
But
then
you are sure that they're going to come.
You just put, I'm a true believer of law of attraction, right? You put it out to the universe, it happens, right? Like, blimey, you only have to talk about something and all of a sudden it appears on your phone. Everyone's listening, right? But you talk to enough people about it, it happens, it comes. And for me, if I'm feeling stressed, that's when I just go to the whiteboard. I empty my brain, I brain dump on the whiteboard. And then from that, I can usually find something that I can focus on that will get me what I need.
It's a very clever way of thinking. Thank you very much, Paul, for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
We really enjoyed it. And I think also all the listeners, there will be a lot to learn from.
Hope so.
And I really look forward to hopefully attending one of your events, because
that'd be great. Yeah,
they look, especially the hybrid one,
the summit. The summit in November.
Yeah, I think that will be a very good event. So hopefully I can join.
Wicked. Thank you.
Thank you much for your time.
Cheers.
Thank you.